Mozart and Rossini and Handel, don't you?
Yes, I started off in town with the old New York Pro Musica, Antiqua, and did some singing also with Waverly Consort. And from there, I wanted to go into opera, and since my limitations, if you will, keep me in Mozart, which is a delightful limitation if there ever was one, I wanted to specialize in it. And I don't do really, at this point, anything heavier than Tamino. I skip over, after Rossini, skip over the better part of the 19th century to Stravinsky and Britten.
I understand. Well, of course, don't you agree, Speight, that Mozart is no limitation, because if you can sing Mozart, there's that truism, you can sing anything.
Exactly, and I think that it's interesting. He says he doesn't, but however, with that voice, any bel canto tenor is open to him, and Tamino actually is not a very light role. Tamino may be sung by light tenors, but the way you sing, I think you're quite capable of singing any of the so many roles in Rossini, Donizetti, Bellini, those roles, and it is such a rare voice.
At any rate, the San Francisco Chronicle was terribly impressed with your debut there. I know you had rave reviews.
Oh, they were very kind.
Right.
It was for Abduction.
For the Abduction. And your repertoire for so young a singer is tremendously vast. You have how many Bach cantatas?
I think there are 19, 20, 21, something
Right.
like that.
You know, it's interesting also about Bach. I think that when I hear your voice, of course, one of the great voices that came to my mind when I was listening to it was Fritz Wunderlich, who had also was free of a narrow sound, and he did some wonderful Bach. And I think that the nature of Bach makes so many people want to sing it without any feeling, they want to sing it without any sensuous quality. And Bach, like all other music, is better when you can treat it in a sensuous manner.
And it's true, too, you know, Bach, for being a deeply religious man, had his sensual side with all those children he created.
Yes, of course.
All 20 children.
All
Plenty of
20. And then you also have a vast concert repertoire, too.
Well, it's getting there.
Right. Do you have a favorite segment of the literature?
I think right now the Britten repertoire, the Illuminations
Yes.
and the Serenade for tenor, which are two of my favorites.
You're going to sing something for us, too, from Auber's La Muette de Portici. Tell us about this aria, because it's not familiar to me, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
It's actually the most lyric part of the opera, I believe. It's a lullaby. It's a delight. The role, I understand, I haven't done the whole opera, is a delight for the tenor because there's no soprano. The leading lady is a dancer, and she is dumb or mute.
Yes.
As well. This part of the opera is where he is singing her to sleep. She's exhausted. She's been the helpmate of the poor in rallying them to greater things in overthrowing the Spaniards.
All right, let us hear that now with Harriet Wingreen at the piano.
Guetta's first great international successes.
Oh, was it?
Sang this in Paris.
I'm impressed, too, by your mezzo voce, because there's always a great deal of controversy, I think, among singers or among people who listen to singers. You know, somebody will say that is a marvelous mezzo voce, and another person will say that's not mezzo voce or half voice, that's a falsetto. But yours is a true mezzo voce, and is that a difficult thing to master?
It's a matter of experience, I think, of knowing when to mix the registers in a proper way. I don't want to get too technical because there's too many different ways of approaching that sort of thing.
Right.
It's knowing what works at what time and when to use it. That may seem a little vague, but I think that's the...
If I may go back to the language for just a minute, hearing you sing the German, I think there's a point to be made that's very interesting, is that you sing German so clearly that anyone who understands the language can follow it. But you have that trick, or it's not, well, it is a trick almost, of being able to sing it without being too tied up into the umlauts. It's the feat of putting Italian, almost an Italian sound into the German language, and yet the German comes over clearly. I think Marilyn Horne once told me that was the only way she ever managed to sing so much German in Germany and keep her voice. But it's vital to be able to do it, and I think that too many people can get lost in speaking German, singing it absolutely accurately, and then it comes over uglily. It doesn't have to, and yet you can hear every word you say and understand it.
That was a trick that was done by Wunderlich as well.
Precisely.
That's why he was so, he became so famous, because everyone said, well, listen to this German tenor. Well, he actually had a very Italianate way of singing his German.
Well, and speaking of the German language, part of your repertoire is Schumann's Dichterliebe. And please sing at least the first 4 songs for us now.
I'd be glad to.
Im wunderschönen Monat Mai, als alle Knospen sprangen, da ist in meinem Herzen die Liebe aufgegangen. Im wunderschönen Monat Mai, als alle Vögel sangen, da hab ich hier gestanden, mein Sehnen unverlangen. Aus meinen Tränen sprießen viel blühender Blumen hervor, und meine Seufzer werden ein Nachtigallenchor. Und wenn du mich lieb hast, Kindchen, schenk ich dir die Blumen all. Und vor deinem Fenster so klingen das Lied der Nachtigall. Die Rose, die Lilie, die Taube, die Sonne, die lieblichen Zahlen im Himmelswonne. Ich lieb sie nicht mehr, ich liebe alleine, die Kleine, die Eine, die Reine, die Eine. Sie selber alle Liebe wohne, ist Rose und Lilie und Taube und Sonne. Ich liebe alleine, die Kleine, die Eine, die Reine, die Eine, die Eine. Wenn ich in deine Augen seh, so schwindet all mein Leid und Weh. Doch wenn ich küsse deinen Mund, so will ich ganz und gar gesund. Wenn ich mich lehn an deine Brust, kommst über mich wie Himmelslust. Doch wenn du sprichst, ich liebe dich, so muss ich weinen,
That was absolutely fantastic. I wish it.
How young singers today, more and more it seems to me, and this is a remarkable example of it, are really getting very interested in Lieder and wanting to do it. I think there's an upsurge of that now.
Yes, and you know, I'm impressed always too by the fact that American singers, particularly the younger generation, and Leontine Price points this out. She said, American singers have the highest standards of any singers in the world, she said, because when they go abroad, they are expected, you know, to sing in Italian or French or German, depending on where they're going and what their repertoire is. But she said, the average European singer coming here, you know, you're very fortunate if it can say, where is the door, and thank you, and please. And I think she is quite right, because American singers, by and large, are better prepared, and they have wider repertoires, and as far as foreign languages which are foreign to them are concerned, they have more facility in them than the average European singer does in English.
Well, let me ask, in terms of your career here, you have not had a great deal of experience in European opera houses. That's my understanding.
No.
You've worked. Well, now, do you find that do you find that your work in opera is coming along in the United States very much without that? Or are you having trouble, or are you being discriminated against because you're an American? That's a bit of our people.
No, not as much. It's coming along fairly well. San Francisco and Dallas, Philadelphia.
What did you do in Dallas?
Dallas, Cenerentola. And as we mentioned...
With Frederica von Stade, right?
No, this was the American cast, and Cynthia Munzer, if you remember. And then last year, Caracas was a Tamino. Philadelphia was a charming opera called Rumpelstiltskin by Joseph Weber. Lovely little piece. And I'd like to make it here. I'd like to be among the singers who start their careers here. They get their yeoman work done in this country instead of doing the old trip to Europe and back.
Right.
I'm not knocking Europe. I'd like to sing there too.
Well, because sometimes I think, and I can think of quite a few young singers who did do the European thing after making an initial success here, and then they just settle down in Europe. You never hear of them again as far as this country is concerned. They may make careers in Europe, but they don't make international careers. They make very steady, comfortable careers in a provincial house.
Right. Well, they get into a trap. They go over there with the idea in mind that they are going to come back here and rule the world. Well, they go over there and they simply get experience. Well, why can't we just get the experience here?
That's true.
You know.
Well, I think the problem is with the experience. I think two things. One, in Europe, the young singer often is compelled to sing in small houses, not only the wrong rules, but they think nothing of putting a tenor, for instance, your voice, on 5 nights a week. And that's because they're using young talent, and they'll just run it until it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
And
You're a civil servant.
You're a civil servant. You can't sing that. You can't sing 5 or 6 nights a week. No tenor can. I mean, I think people that are not accustomed to our kind of singing, to opera, might not. You have to always be reminded that it, after all, is sung with